Todd, when we talk about changing culture inside an organization or creating culture, which is very important for what you all are doing, the flip side of that in the new face of medical practices moving forward is the inherent tension of when we're seeing solo practices dissolve, when you're forced to, or these practitioners now are coming into these larger institutions, and the tensions that exist given this significant transition. How are you, from a talent perspective, adapting your model to be able to recruit and maintain the best doctors, but also have that same focus with all the other team members in the organization who may have a larger role than ever before?
Yeah, so I think, again, it does get back to the culture, but you have to have the system in place so you can afford to do this. So
what's the system look like for that?
So the system is, first of all, it's, Rick Perry talked about it on a state level. It's the same system. It is low taxation, less regulation, and high reward. It's a capitalist system. So if you have that system, and that system is in place, you can have a successful, happy culture, but you have to have all the other things that go along with it. Like I said, our culture is that of academics, so we have to have a good system to do research. Everybody has to agree to it, and they have to want to put resources toward it. That's one thing. We also have to say, we're gonna try to keep a low overhead. Our overhead is about 36%, 35 or 36%. An average orthopedic group, let alone a group our size, is well over 40%, 45% to 50%. So we have a low overhead, and we're also we have a system, we're in multiple places. But one thing I should say that we did that I think is really important, if people say, well, we're gonna have growth, we're gonna grow into the community. What we didn't do was hire young people like a PGY7, a person a year out of residency, and say, you're gonna go out here and build this practice. Every one of those original 6 senior guys and as many as 12 senior guys went and put their foot plant in every one of our outreach areas, built a practice with 1 or 2 or 3 young people. And it really, those now 1, 2, or 3 people become busy and planted in that community. We don't look like carpetbaggers, they're in the community, and they become successful. And they're happy, and they take part in our culture, because success breeds that happiness and attends to the culture.
So you're able to scale while still preserving that patient experience that's so endemic to who you are and at the root of what you're doing. And as we're finishing up on this conversation, I would really encourage each of you to spend some time with these individuals, because again, looking at the landscape, there's some unexpected and unconventional practices that, again, easier said than done, but I think can provide a blueprint for other institutions, or at least a framework for the conversation. So if we're looking at this diverse model of institutions, all of which are in flux, some may not be sustainable, when you're looking at each other's respective institutions, I'll start with you, Sandy. What would you say to Todd and say, I want to take what you're doing and transplant it into Boston Children's right now?
I think he's right. The culture is absolutely critical. We've actually tried to use not only the innovative culture, but the entrepreneurial culture within our organization. And I think there has to be an ownership. Even though we're a broad-based, we have a broad array of services, we have orthopedics and many other programs at Children's. We've tried to create local, along the lines of your model, ownership groupings within the institution where there is the spirit of innovation, of research and discovery, of entrepreneurialism, so that it's not just we're going to build it and they will come, but we will be also patient-centric. We will be looking at issues of service. We will be trying to create that value equation that is so necessary, that you've done so amazingly well for your patients. And so I think there's a lot to be learned from your structures.
So going and have Todd come in as a consultant, I'm pretending that we all work together, and you'll get a few of your extra days, because none of you are busy, to come up and share some of the structures. But Todd, looking at the more traditional institutions, particularly at Rothman, we're again very entrepreneurial, but often bucking some of the status quo and how you've approached this business. Where can you find value from more traditional academic research institutions, which you work with already, but from a larger framework perspective?
Yeah. So we get a lot of value from our partners. We have tremendous academic partners. But one of the things that Sandy said that I think is spectacular is that outreach into the community. One of the things we're really interested in is, like, we want to be total musculoskeletal providers. And I'm not sure that we say we are. You know, when we look at these bundle payment initiatives and things where we have to do the whole continuum of care, well, if we do a total hip or a total knee on somebody and look at the entire cost, 50% of that cost is after the patient leaves the hospital, their rehab, their home care, and everything. We have no control or no handle on it. It's not that we want to be control freaks and control everything, but to really deliver the care from start to finish at a cost-sensitive way and to make it less expensive and better for everybody. That's one of the things that I think you do tremendously well, and we would like to learn and work with our partners to do.
Potentially adopt those practices.
Yes.
And as we close up, we have 2 minutes left. I would just love your perspectives. One of the themes that keeps coming up throughout the day, obviously, is collaboration and breaking down the silos, and how do you ensure that it's a way that's mutually beneficial, but not to the detriment of your businesses and your institutions. Sandy, and then I'll ask, and you can weigh in, then Todd. Do you see enough of that happening right now, and what can people here do to speed that process up?
You know, I think within our local markets, there's still an awful lot of competition, and it's probably only going to get worse before it gets better. I would love to see much more partnering. We're trying to do that in many different ways, not just among the academic medical centers, but how do we do it across the entire continuum? How do we go into and empower patients and families? How do we work with government? How do we work with insurers much more productively than we have in the past? They can be our partners. They are our partners when we do it right. And in fact, they do care about doing the right thing in many instances, at least in our market. And so I would love to see more of that.
So just scratching the surface as to opportunities.
Right.
Todd, do you think there's enough collaboration, even in this conversation with you and Sandy, that's happening in the industry right now?
Well, Sandy and my collaboration is spectacular, but I don't know if there's enough in the industry. I think something she just said is really important. We have to work with the insurers. They're going to control the lives. And talk about data. They have the best data. They know what's going on and what the patients are doing. So I think that collaboration, there always can be more. And it should be a win for everybody. You know, when people get greedy, that's when it's a problem. It's, I need more than you need.